Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture. And before I bring on my guest, I do want to remind everybody that links are up above. So there is a link to my guest's Indiegogo that we're going to be talking about, and there's several links to what I'm doing. So please buy me a coffee because every little bit goes and helps to support this show. And it is super important, as well as even going beyond that. Just share the interview around for those who are watching, because a share goes a long way as well. It makes me feel warm and special inside. So, without further ado, welcome back, Ozzy Longoria. You were on, I think, 10 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago, a short while, and we're not going to go into everything that you've done because there is one thing that I do want to talk about, and that is the sequel slash, I guess, continuing story of The Sword and the Sorcerer. And cult classic, it's almost 40 years old at this point, and so I am super curious because I know Creamy Rat Studios is involved in this. So how did all of this come about? Because it is super interesting.
Well, it's technically not my project. I was invited, but I made it my project. Basically my partner, Jeremy Fraser, he got the rights for the first. He got the rights for another movie, which is Mean Guns, and who was he was directed by the same guy, Albert Puig, and he did an anthology. Then he asked for the other rights for the Sword and the Sorcerer, and they were available. So he started looking for artists, and I did the cover for his anthology. So what happened is that this time he wanted me to do the whole book, and what I said is no. I was busy. I was doing another books, and I told him, like, I want to edit the book. I want to be the editor, and he said no. So we part ways. He went looking for someone else. He actually did test pages with someone else, and he didn't like him. He actually showed it to me, and I said, no, this is not a good thing. He needs to be this and that and that. And so he part ways again, and he came with a good offer, which is money, and also with okay, you can be a co-editor, because he wanted also edit the book. So we are both doing that, and he gave me the penciler and inker position, plus editing the book. And I hired someone else as a colorist, but the guy wasn't doing really good job, so I fired him and I start doing the colors by myself. So
there's a lot to talk about with that, but I think the big question is, and I really want to get into it. So I know that there's obviously Jeremy's involved in writing, and I know Albert is also a little bit involved as well as Guy.
Albert is not. Albert is not. He's just the creator. We put him in the website so we can give him. Well, it's basically marketing for us. So, but he's not really writing anything.
I'm sure he's there for guidance if need be, because obviously the sword and the sorcerer is a big world, and he invented that world, and obviously it's very helpful to have somebody there, who knows this world and invented it. Just God forbid there's a question that comes up, right? And then obviously there's another writer I think involved as well, and so there's a lot going on. And then obviously the basic story of the Sword and Sorcerer is this king's son basically, escapes. He becomes this warrior, and this other guy, Cromwell, sort of convinces a sorcerer to grant him power, and then he sort of kicks the sorcerer off a cliff, as in good old medieval fashion, if you will. Yeah. And then 11 years later, Talon, who's the son of this king and watching his father died, returns, and he basically joins the rebellion, and now this rebellion wants to take back the kingdom, essentially, from Cromwell. Sorcerer is not dead, and pretty much it's this showdown between, the Sorcerer and Talon and Cromwell, and it's all about the girl. So it's always about the girl. So that's what sort of happens, and then spoiler guys, they wind up defeating Cromwell and Sorcerer, and everything is sort of great, and then everybody's going along their way, and that's kind of where this story picks up, I think. Is
that's right.
After everybody's, hey, Talon's going on another adventure, and not everybody wants the Sorcerer dead, and maybe there's some people who want to revive the Sorcerer. And so what was this like coming into this world? Because obviously I know that you're the co-editor and that obviously you're sort of the artist behind it, but there's a lot of stuff going on with this. Right. And it's a vast world, is my point.
So basically, well, you know this story better than me, actually.
I did my homework. It's called Wikipedia. Yeah, I'll admit defeat when it's necessary.
So yeah, and actually, guys, if you want to watch this movie, it's free on YouTube. So yeah, the story picks up 2 weeks later, after the Talon is about to leave, and he gets. I really don't want to talk much about it. But
he gets the girl, and he enjoys the girl, for lack of a better word, and
the girl gets him
night with her. It's all good.
And basically, obviously, the first book talks about how the evil resurrects, and we don't want to. Again, I don't want to talk much about it because it's a really big spoiler. The first book tells you a lot. It's an origin, basically, of how he comes back. So
so without ruining too much, because and where we're going with this is that obviously this world is set where there's a bunch of events that have occurred, and I think it's pretty evident that this is not a reboot of this. Rather, this is the continuation.
It's completely, and it follows the story. The story is grounded. The movie is the blocks, the building blocks, and then we build after that, obviously. And in the story, and like I say, I cannot tell you much because it spoils basically.
And so I'm not trying to ruin anything. I promise.
The same characters are there.
So what is this like? Because it is very cool when you come into something and you're continuing a story, and then you have set characters and people's character traits are already developed, and they're just. I think we all know Talon is a just character, and he's not about to. I think it's pretty safe to say that he didn't resurrect the Sorcerer. I don't think that's a spoiler for that matter. It's pretty obvious.
That's a good guess. No, I'm kidding. No. There's a new character, actually. It's a bad seed. It's a bad character, but
we're not ruining anything. I promise. I'm not pushing.
If I tell you who this character is, if I explain a little more, it will ruin it, the whole thing. So you have to buy.
And even to go further into this, because this is where this gets very interesting, is that obviously people have an idea of what Talon looks like, and they already have a way he speaks, and they already have a way that he's drawn, and obviously you're doing the pages. So what is this like for you? Because obviously there's an expectation, and movies and comics are slightly different, but they're similar.
We actually thought about that. We thought about that, and we can translate something that is on film to a comic book. So it needs to be a little more how do you say? It needs to be explained better, or the characters need to be speak differently at some point. It can be like a Conan comic book, basically. It's got more. Not only that, it had a narrator too. In our book, which also has a narrator but it explains a little more without telling too much. But it's important too.
And so obviously that is a challenge in of its own right, because I don't think you've ever taken something that was a movie and then continued it into a comic. And obviously for those who don't know, television is expensive. Producing an episode of anime is very pricey. This is why Avatar: The Last Airbender went from producing television shows down to comics, because a comic done on the high end might be 30 grand, an episode of anime could be 100,000. And there's a big difference, not to mention that there's a hell of a lot more production involved. And so obviously, and also a comic can be produced faster. It also has a direct market, especially if it's done, there's a million ways how to do a comic book and get it into marketing. You get it into storage, you could sell it directly to your consumer online. You could just do a digital version of it. Versus a television show, really, there's only one or two routes you can go. And even then, that's tough. And so obviously, there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of reasons why this would be continued in a comic. And also comics, are super hot right now.
Right. And that's why we brought Joe Salverine. I'm really bad at pronouncing last names. Salverine, which is the co-writer. He brought. We did a first draft of the script, and it was close to the movie, and that makes it like really slow pace, because they move differently and they speak differently. So what we did is make it better, more action, more visual, because obviously a comic book is a visual medium, and we put more elements that cannot be in a movie. Oh, I mean, they can be in a movie, but in a comic book it's easier, right? You can add whatever fantastic things you imagine, and it will be like a really big budget movie if you're trying to do this one, because there is a huge battle, like thousands of lizards. That's a little spoiler, but lizard man against the Talon's army. So yeah, it's we did a really good script. We're very proud of it, and it's gonna be different than the movie. It's a little better. I'll say it's better.
And obviously, with the movie is a cult classic in a lot of ways. The movie did very well, so I don't want it to be like viewed as a failure in the movie theater, because it wasn't nothing but a success for its budget. It did.
It was made like $14 million. It made 124, I think, something like that.
And so really great multiple. And it wasn't, but obviously a lot of people like this movie. It's 40 years old, and it is very much a cult classic where, nobody, says, Sorcerer, the Sorcerer and the Sword and the Sorcerer, where I can't speak, was it's very much in that category. It's very much an 80s vibe type movie. And sure, it has that feel. Obviously the 80s are huge, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, My Little Pony, right, Voltron, all that stuff is only getting bigger. And so what is that like for you? Because obviously this is one of those things where it's still being spoken about today, this movie. And obviously 40 years later, what is that like? Because it is cool to bring the next thing in there and to happen now. And I don't know if this could have happened 10 years ago.
Yeah, in retrospective, I feel like an idiot that I told him no the first time. Because I always, it was my dream to do a Conan book or something like that. And this is my chance, because it's very similar. Like the worlds are basically the same. But yeah, the movie, it's like you mentioned, is a cult classic. So I feel a lot of pressure. I never been like that scared that people is not gonna react well. So that's why we're putting that much effort, that we're putting a lot of time too. Like we're taking our time to do things right. And not only that, also the people involved are the right people. Like Simon Beasley is perfect for this kind.
We're going to talk about him, I promise.
Yeah, right. So
we're going to go dark very quickly.
And
I'm teasing something very, very because people know who he is, and I think people get that joke. But yeah, there's a lot of really amazing people involved in this, and we're going to talk about him in a few seconds here. But
I
even
mean,
going into the vibe a little bit, obviously the movie has an '80s vibe. I think it's pretty clear that the special effects in the movie were '80s vibe.
it's a
And
product of its time, and it was copied so many times. It was every studio tried to do the same things. Obviously, the first one was Conan, and then that one follow up, but it grew in. It was a different branch completely, so it grew their own fans, and every studio tried to copy it too.
And to even go into that, because the movie has an '80s vibe. Obviously people know me. I'm a big, I love the Transformers. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love Voltron. I love old school '80s anime. And you can't say, well, 2020 anime and '80s anime are the same thing. But and the reason I bring all this up is because obviously you want to keep the same vibe with the comic, because that's what made this movie very popular, and that's what you're sort of alluding to.
For sure.
But also, you don't want to, and I say this, the art style in the last 40 years has gotten so much better. It's night and day. I think if you put an '80s comic next to a 2021 comic, what you can do in art is unbelievable, just because of, Photoshop, and the color palette. There's neon purple magenta didn't exist in the '80s. As much as there was like what 12 fonts in the '80s, like so what is this like for you, because you're the artist on this and you're the co-editor and you're also sort of, I guess, a little bit of the project manager to some degree, of saying, hey, we got to keep certain things in that vibe, but we also got to get that
Right.
awesome coloring in there. We got to get the new stuff in there, but we got to keep that vibe and balancing it, because, and I'm going to say this very nicely, and it might be a little uncorrect, people want both things in there and they want a nice mixture of it.
Of course, we're aiming for all those people who feel the nostalgia, but also we were trying to get the new readers, which is young people who never seen this movie, maybe because they're too young. But we're trying to we have this talk about it, about the style, how it was gonna be, if it was gonna be like the old uh, comics from the '80s, and which I disagree with doing it that way. That's why we're doing it in a more modern way, more like a Conan book from now, um, like the Marvel style, let's say, the new Marvel style, because it has changed from publishers. Um, I think he went to Marvel, and then Dark Horse, and then back to Marvel and whatever. But we were trying to do something that appeals for everybody, and the new audience and the old audience. And he's going to keep the same elements, same characters. Obviously, the sword never changes. So that's one of those main things, the main elements that needs to be there. And yeah, that's what we're trying to do, something new and fresh, but with the old nostalgia.
And even speaking about that, because obviously my parents lived in the '80s, I was born in the '90s. So obviously this is not a movie from my time, but I've seen pieces of it. I haven't seen all of it. I'm the first person to admit it. I probably should have prepped up a little better for this interview. I'll take the heat on that one. But I think everybody's seen pieces of this, but obviously there's going to be people who were like 10 when they saw this. And then, things are going to come across their desk and be like, oh man, I remember that. What happened to this? And then there's also people who, maybe, the people who were maybe 20 and saw this movie now have grandkids. And they're like, hey, let me show my grandkids, and I give them this book. And then there's people who've never seen any of this, who have no idea what this is, but they're like, oh, this seems interesting.
Since we revealed that we're going to do this book, we've been getting so many comments about how they love this movie, how there's entire groups on Facebook about this movie. So again, that's pressure on us to make something good. and
And even to talk about that, you could niche this down to those groups just alone, and you could be creating a product. And I know that's obviously you want to be expansive as possible, but isn't it nice when there's groups that say, hey, we love this movie and all we do is talk about this movie and talk about what could happen, and they have fan interpretations of it, and they're like, hey, we think, this went this way, or we didn't like, the way this happened. And, obviously these are the people who say, this is the next chapter in this, and they want this. And those are what are known as super fans in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. And you know how fans are, like, crazy sometimes. Like, you gotta get this right. It's like I said, it's a lot of pressure, but I'm confident that the people like this. Like I said, we're prepared. We're having a great script. Starting with the script, then the art. I'm putting a lot of effort. I'm doing a lot of research. Everything has to be right. Obviously, the colors too, and I don't know who the letter is right now, but I'm probably gonna do it myself. We'll see.
And obviously, one of the things that you mentioned him already, and it's Simon Baisley. And obviously, that's a big also marketing thing for this, where obviously the book and the Sword and the Sorcerer as an entity, is marketable in of itself because of its success as a movie, but the other driving force, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything that's sort of not already put out there, is Simon Baisley is very much a driving force behind this as well, because he's doing a cover, and I think this is his cover, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is one of his covers, and I don't think
that's the initial cover. Yeah,
I don't think he's gonna mind me sharing it because I think it's pretty
no. It's out. It's on the campaign actually.
And so obviously,
what he did is actually he made two of the same. It's basically the same, but I haven't shown it yet because it's gonna be on the we're gonna release one of the books with the actual cover, with the sketch cover, and the other one is gonna be the painted cover, and the other one is gonna be my cover. So that's three.
This is your cover.
That's my. Well, it's not finished yet, but I'm working on it. I'm
working with what I have here. Come on. But even talking about that, because I don't know how many people know Simon Baisley's background. Obviously, he worked for DC. I don't know if he's worked for Marvel, but I know that he came out of heavy metal.
He's done things for Marvel. He did some Venom covers. He's done so many, actually. He's got a huge gallery of covers. He's done interiors. He's done. He worked for Dark Horse.
And his start, I don't know how many people know this, but his start was actually at heavy metal.
Heavy metal, yeah.
And so, I mean, we're going old school indie comics to the max. And so it's very, very cool where, like, the things that, DC Marvel wouldn't touch, heavy metal plays with, and some of the best of the best. Right now, I think Tim Seeley is sort of running and contributing a lot to heavy metal. Steve Orlando is doing a lot of stuff in heavy metal. And he's got a great comic out there. So obviously, how did Simon Baisley come into this project? Because it's a big name. This has obviously got a lot of name recognition because a lot of people know this movie. And then he's in sort of the other driving force, or one of the other driving forces, I should say, because of his work on Batman. And a lot of people know him for Batman and certain things at Marvel. I know him from the DC realm. I'm not a Marvel guy. So obviously I know his Batman covers, and that's how I know him. But even still,
he did a story for Batman Black and White. That was really good too. I remember that one. I have it actually. But yeah, he's been doing so much work. I consider him a superstar. I don't think there's there's only a handful of cover painters that they're at that level. So, and we have to have him. So we just ask him. We like a Hail Mary basically, because we're small, super small. No one has heard of us or company, and he loved the movie. Like, his reaction is like, "Well, I charge this much, but we only have this much." And we don't have the money of like a DC or Marvel, so he said like, okay, I'm gonna do it because I love the movie. That's how we got to get him.
And then even going further, because obviously it adds a lot of credibility to this project, and I hate name dropping. I hate the idea that you're resting on somebody's name, but sometimes that's what it takes. I'm an interviewer.
100%, yeah, no. Right there.
So,
It's just, I'm not saying my name is gonna attract many people. I mean, I'm not that well known. I haven't worked for the big two, but I'm 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 very well known in the circuit, in the independent circuit. So
but even still, it's very cool because obviously people like his work. People are interested in his cover work, and also the fans who appreciate his work, and especially in the DC and Marvel side, obviously are going to flock to him with his heavy metal stuff. And now all of a sudden, this is another cover that they need to own if you're
yeah,
a signed
there's
base
two.
collector. And it gets more fun in a second when we get to rewards. But how does that make you feel knowing that, hey, you have a big engine behind you now, where because it makes you feel good. Every time I get a big interview, and I get a superstar. So when I have Paul Leviton, it's a big deal, or Denny O'Neil, it's a very big deal.
For
You
sure.
know, Chuck Dixon is another one because now all of a sudden you're at the table. If
I
that
I
makes sense.
want I want to get him because he's one of my favorite writers, Chuck Dixon. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Honestly, he did a book. It's called El Cazador. It's a pirate book, and that book made me do a pirate book. He's one of my favorite writers. Like, that's how good he is, that he just influenced me so much. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna. Sorry, I'm listening to the echo and it's distracting me.
So very much the engine behind it when you get a big superstar, because obviously when a big superstar comes in, a lot of air comes into the room, and also you're invited to the table. As
Oh,
I
sure.
was stating, whenever I get a big interview and I'm punching above my weight, and I know when I'm punching above my weight, I don't pretend, but I'm at the table and I'm treated like an equal at the table. It's very important in a lot of ways from just a creating point, because it
Right.
changes the way you think, it changes the way your brain works, it changes the velocity of the project, and even the relevance of the project, and also the stakes become higher. And I'm the type of person, when the stakes are life and death, I perform unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I gotta tell you that I feel I feel very lucky. So at some point that I met all these people. In my last book, I got a double Eisner Award winners. So that's another thing. I met a lot of people. Like, it's very serendipitous that I met all these people, because in my last book also I met uh, Tom Levine. He was writing for Spawn, and he came to me and he's like, "Oh, can I do a story for you?" It's like, "Yeah, you can do whatever." And so it's just luck, or is networking, or there's another story about how I got a cover for an X-Men writer, which I'm not going to reveal which book is going to be on that. But it was the dad of my friend, and I didn't know. I had a friend for years, and he's like, "Oh, we were always talking about comic books." And he's like, "Oh, my dad wants to meet you." It's like, "Why? What did I do?" It's like, "Or why?" It's like, "Well, this is because he used to do like X-Men books and Impulse, RoboCop." It's like, "What? How in the hell? You never told me this." It's like, "Well, that just happened." And he did a cover for one of my books, and it's not out yet, but soon it will be revealed. It's so funny how this this world's so small. But anyway, yeah, I feel like lucky, or sometimes it's not working too when I get all these people, because I met my partner through just randomly to another of my friends, and now we're doing a book of this caliber. It's so random. I don't know.
It's so weird in which that, it's the saying is that sometimes it's just the right time, right place. I ask
Right time, right
people,
place.
and what I expect is I expect a no, and the worst thing that can happen to me is a no. And it's crazy because once you start doing one person, then all of a sudden they have a friend, you do their friend, and then all of a sudden the third person's left out, and they're like, "Hey, I want to be on your show," and then all of a sudden, their friend wants to be on, and they're like, I wouldn't be on your show." I've had people come up to me, and when I asked them, I said, "Look, I wouldn't be on your show except the fact that you've done all my friends, and I have to be on your show now because legitimately you have done 10 of my friends, and if you didn't do these 10 people, wouldn't have happened." So super cool, and I was insulted and flattered at the exact same time. So that is so off topic, and I do want to get into the rewards.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's a lot of rewards that can be granted here, and obviously this is a little bit different than Kickstarter, and this is Indiegogo. But there's obviously the digital book. So digital for me is wonderful because it's cheaper. Not to mention that if you live in a foreign country, shipping can be a bitch.
Oh yeah.
It can take forever. I just had Santine Phoenix was on a few months ago, and she was on our Kickstarter, and I don't think I'm revealing anything. They had a Kickstarter before the one they just funded, and it took them a month to find a boat to get it shipped. Okay, wow. That's a big problem. And now I understand that, I'm not too sure where you're printing this book, but it's the idea that if you're printing it overseas, it can be very difficult to get a book, or if you're even shipping it, because most things, if you're shipping to Canada, it's probably going to go on an airplane. But if you're shipping to Australia, it's going on a boat. No question about it. And it could be very difficult to find boats that are going to transport it. So obviously digital is a great option for that. It's also cheaper for those who don't want to spend as much money. But then we get into your cover, and I do want to talk about it. I'm working with what you gave me essentially.
Yeah.
And so
we just need the background on that one, and the colors obviously. But it will finish pretty soon, actually next week.
And so what I like about this cover, and this is probably the worst thing to say, and I don't know if you're going to keep it, is I love the fact that the sword is sort of cutting your name.
Right.
because let me explain why I say this. Your name is Longoria. Swords tend to be long, and I just think it's a very funny placement of your last name right at the hilt of the sword.
Yeah. And I really don't like I don't like to put my name in the middle. It's normally on the bottom, and I'm probably gonna change it actually. If I can be honest, I think I'm gonna change it. But
this is very much sort of the just traditional, cover A, cover B type thing, where it's just the main characters. It's an action type scene, and there's nothing popping off of it, but it's also just a cool cover, and it's very indicative of this story.
Yeah, we're gonna. The reason I didn't finish it yet is because it spoils a little bit of who the bad guy is. So I don't want to ruin it yet. I mean, I don't want to ruin the story.
But it's very important, this cover, because it's sort of a story type cover. And, also, and I'm going to say this, it doesn't take away from Simon Basley's cover as well. And this is his cover. And obviously this isn't finished yet completely. And I don't know what we're ruining per se with this, but I do want to help sell your Indiegogo.
Yeah.
So, obviously this is his cover.
This is the one that is not finished. This is it's going to be painted, but we have the rough sketch.
And so this is something that's out there that's also, not that expensive, all things considered.
Oh, no. We're trying to do something that everybody can afford, because sometimes, like we were talking before, it's like it gets.
Guys, I'm poor. Guys, I'm not poor. I'm broke.
No, I didn't say that. I said we were talking about before.
No. I'm clarifying my position. I am broke right now, and I
Oh,
am
you're
very
broke. Oh yeah,
cash.
send him a coffee. Come on, people.
And
Doing a
that.
lot of good things for the industry.
So the reason why I bring this up actually is that this happens sometimes where people go through life where all of a sudden you have an emergency or you have a cavity or you have to you get into a car accident, and well, you have money to take care of your car, nobody died or anything, but you have a $1,500 setback, and then well, a Kickstarter hits, and all of a sudden priorities change, or maybe something happened and you had a family emergency, and there you go. And that happens in life. Life happens. And that's why, it's very important sometimes when, I've seen Kickstarters that have 1,000-tier reward. And I'm saying to myself, who in Mother God has $1,000 to spend on a Kickstarter? Well, apparently some people do. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But I've also seen the cheapest rewards on Kickstarters being $50 at the same time. And I'm like, I don't have. Sometimes I do have $50, sometimes I don't. But all of a sudden, I think like your digital is what, like $5-6, I think, and then it might even be less. And then I think your cover is around that price, or might be a little bit more than this.
My cover is because obviously I'm the small guy. Obviously, I'm not even compared to a superstar. So that's a $6. The other one is $8 or $8, I think.
It's either $8 or $10. I forget too, but the idea is that it's not that expensive and ridiculous for a variant. And the whole reason why I bring all this up is because I want people to understand that when you're backing this, this is reasonable, Kickstarter, Indiegogo prices, it's not over the top. It's very similar to what it would be charged at.
None of the rewards are over the top. None of them. We talked about that last time, that I don't like when people overcharge, because I don't think that's the intention of this platform. It's just to sell it to people who are in places where you can't get them. And why would it be like super expensive?
Or even to go further, or just to be a distribution system where it's the idea that you just need to fund the book, and maybe you want to make a little bit of money as the writer or artist, and so if you do 9,000, the book costs 7, maybe you have an even dividend split on it, so that everybody feels that they had a little bit more of a payday, and that or it goes into producing the next project that you're doing, like a 4-arc miniseries and then the graphic novel, and I think the reason why I bring all this up is that it's not outrageous on that front. I think it's very important that people understand that $10 for a comic cover on an indie platform isn't that bad, especially if it's from a top artist, or even if if this was done by Marvel, it'd be $5, but you are supporting an indie project. It's not out of the norm, and I want to make that crystal clear. And then obviously, this is some other stuff out there that you can get, and then obviously I think you can get a package of all 3 covers pretty cheaply as well.
Yeah, for $20, all 3 for $20. You don't get that deal anywhere.
And so
for $20.
And so obviously you get all 3 of those, and obviously that's the sketch cover, I think the painted cover, your cover, and so that's cool. And then there's this, which is just the sketch cover. Hopefully I'm not ruining too much here, but obviously sort of out there. And then obviously that's all that stuff. But then we go even further. Obviously there's T-shirts that are out there. I know you're doing some commissions.
We're doing an early bird special for $30. You get one of the covers signed and with a drawing too. You get the T-shirt, you get the PDF, and a poster, and a print. Yeah. So that's the cheapest thing in any platform. We've seen every single a project, and no one can match it. No one.
And then to even go further, because I know that you do a lot of commissions and that you do a lot of blank cover stuff, and that obviously there's a lot of cool blank covers. Every company has it. Whether it's DC, Marvel, Zenescope, Image has blank covers, and Obviously, some of your blank covers have already been taken. I know that much. Some of them I think are already done. But for the most part, I think there's like 48 of them available. And 80. I stand corrected. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
So having said that, obviously, you could get a commission, and obviously I'm sure there's some back and forth between you and whoever orders that to get something they want and get a certain style because, well, maybe somebody wants more of an anime or, more superhero or more pose oriented or,
if you want to face as a superhero, we can do it too. Like your face with a Wolverine body,
or I'm sure somebody is a little demented like me, and maybe you want some bikini covers like Wonder Woman in a bikini.
That's right.
I'm sure you would appreciate drawing that or going along the ideas of a cover commission I want to do, which is sort of a mashup of certain characters of anime.
Right. I've done a lot of those too. Yeah.
And so, like, Sailor Moon as Captain America, it comes to mind. Or, Daffy Duck as Batman. It is another good one.
I put in the description, basically whatever you want, I can draw it.
So there's a lot of choice on what can be done here. I recommend everybody challenge Ozzy. Please do it.
Yes.
Because I would love it. I would love it. And
I believe in giving a lot. Like we talked about that last time. That I am the kind of guy who goes the extra mile to do a. It's not going to be a simple sketch. It's going to be something that is you're going to want to frame it. It's going to be something that is so detailed that you can say this is not $40, $60, whatever that is. I'm charging. I can't remember. $60, I think. Whatever. It's gonna be worth the price, and you're gonna be like upset that you didn't order two.
And then even going further, because obviously there's other things also. Original pencil pages are up there. I think face
original,
the face in the book, so you could be part of the book in some capacity. Also, I know that Albert. I don't know how to say his last name.
Albert Pewing.
I tried. I know he's having an autograph card that could be picked up, and I think Simon Basley as well has one. If I'm not mistaken,
he's drawing. He's drawing the cards, so it's the sketch cards. And so, we have a bundle. We have a T-shirt, comic book. One of the cards, and for Simon Beasley, like drawing, and one of the cards for the director signed, and it's 250, I think, which is nothing. Like in eBay terms, like nothing. You can sell them for like 500.
And so to offer this, and obviously I think those cards are one-of-ones from my understanding.
Yeah, those are original.
He's not duplicating any of it. They're one-of-ones. They're all going to be relatively unique from my understanding.
One-of-one, yeah.
And so there's a lot of cool stuff going on with this, and obviously it's very cool because obviously he must really love this project, or he must really love you. It's one or the other.
No, yeah, I'm very proud of this. I mean, somehow it fell on my lap, and I'm doing my best, believe me.
And so obviously there's a lot of rewards, and you could go all the way to the top, or you could just stick with just some comics. You could get the early bird special. You can mix it up. I mean, you can figure it out. I'm not too sure how Indiegogo goes, as if somebody wants a commission and then the early bird special, and they want to add stuff on, because I know with Kickstarter you can add stuff on. But
I'm not sure how it does. I never had two people buying stuff.
Again, I don't know anything. What do I know?
But we can give them a discount, I guess.
No, not even that. People want shit in life, and so obviously, people who love this type of stuff want this type of stuff, and they get very excited about this, and obviously, it's like kids on Christmas.
Right.
Sometimes with the people who love this type of project, they have money for this type of project, and that's the thing where it really goes to. And so, and it's just super interesting because when people love certain things, they'll spend the money.
And a lot of people have been asking me about the sword. What are we going to do? We have one of the t-shirts is going to be the sword, but we're trying to do something. We're going to try to do something special for the next book, which is going to be mini replicas of the sword. And by the, I don't know, I mean, this is in the future, obviously, but we're thinking in doing a replica, an actual replica of the sword, which has never been done. So there's all kinds of swords in the market, all kinds, like any, you mentioned the movie, it's been done except for this one. So we're going to try to do that one. It's going to be expensive, but it's going to be worth the price too.
Well, thunder.
Yeah, man.
It's because that's your shirt. I know the
Oh yeah,
symbol.
that's right.
No, it's
fan of the 80s, man. That's why I'm doing this.
So having said all that, and obviously there's a lot of goals, and obviously there's a lot of stuff down in the future, and there's a lot of places where this can go. And I know that you've done Kickstarters before. Obviously, I backed one of your Kickstarters. We spoke about a bunch of that. I think you've run at least 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken, if not more, on the Kickstarter.
I did 2 of the same in different platforms. One for Doomsday TV, I did Indiegogo and Kickstarter.
So
I did another project too. And
so the reason why I bring this up is that obviously I am way more familiar with Kickstarter. Obviously, I have friends who have killed it. Kanan White kills it on Indiegogo, and I love Kanan. Kanan is a fantastic artist who is beyond underrated, and I cannot say enough good things. And he does really well on Indiegogo with his projects, and a few other people do very well as well. But Indiegogo is slightly different because it has more of a flexible goal than Kickstarter, but it is crowdfunding. The same principles apply. Indiegogo has different rules, and they are a little less strict from my understanding on Kickstarter. On Kickstarter, you cannot show nudity. For those who, I don't know what you can do on Indiegogo, but I know it's a little less. And so what is your experience with both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and why Indiegogo with this project? Because it has advantages in a lot of ways.
I haven't seen any advantages or well, obviously the main one is the Indiegogo. You can keep everything, even if you fail to get your to reach your goal, you keep it, which is a big advantage. Obviously, in the Kickstarter, you don't. That's the whole thing. And so I guess it will be a little easier to market it on Indiegogo. But I'll say that in my case, I don't see many differences. It's probably the same, but I guess people can see other things. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen the difference. I never had any problem with any of them. So
it's also Kickstarter and Indiegogo have been politicized for ridiculous reasons, and well, it's good for both of those platforms because when you politicize, money follows politics.
Right.
And what happens, and it's your side versus my side. I need money, and great, when you do this, you're supporting an entire cause, and it's just absolutely ridiculous, and that's as controversial as we're going to get. So obviously, I just wanted to bring that up because I was just curious on why you went the Indiegogo route, and obviously, I think the big advantage really is on Indiegogo is flex funding goals.
We're gonna do both. After these, we're gonna do the other one.
And let's talk about that because since you brought it up, I think it's usually people will start on Kickstarter and then they'll almost use Indiegogo as a print-on-demand methodology. Right. Which I mean, I think that if you can do both, you should do both. I don't see why you shouldn't do a GoFundMe either with this. Why not? Because everybody has their preferences. And if I ever run a Kickstarter for whether it's a comic or something else, unless I did like 80 grand on Kickstarter.
Another difference that I noticed is that I think one of them takes PayPal and the other one doesn't. They only takes cards, I think. Obviously, okay. Indiegogo takes cards and PayPal, I think, and the other one doesn't, just cards. I
And then,
think.
and then also, does Indiegogo take less of a percentage than PayPal
I
than
think
than
it's the same.
Kickstarter does?
I think it's the same, 3%.
Because
I'm,
I
I'm,
thought Kickstarter
I'm not.
takes
I'm
more.
not. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's the same.
Because I thought Kickstarter takes like 7.
Uh, no, that's a lot.
Then
No,
again, I've never run it, and I'm the first person that I'm not speaking with every single fact
no.
out there.
The one who is with PayPal takes the 3% of of the whole thing, and PayPal gets a cut too. I think it's another 3 or 4%. That's the 7 that you're talking about.
So there's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously,
At the end, you lose like 10% or 15
because
with
I thought on both platforms you lose anywhere from 7 to 10% regardless.
yeah, yeah, you
And the whole only reason why you're on those platforms is that you can develop an entire crowdfunding platform yourself. I legitimately can go build a funnel and do it, but you wouldn't have the traffic, and
right.
you wouldn't have built-in traffic. And that's the whole point of these platforms.
You can use an international too. So one from England, it will be probably better for me right now because we're having a superstar from England, from the UK, and maybe it'll be better. I don't know. I need to check on that actually. That's a good
And,
idea.
and so there's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously you're going to be on Kickstarter, which is going to have a very different, crowd, and obviously Kickstarter has a lot of traffic and things drive and all sorts of
That
stuff.
is
But
that is the thing that Kickstarter has a lot of traffic, but more traffic than Indiegogo. Obviously, they're a big company against a middle size, and I think that's where you can get a little more money, I guess. But I haven't seen that. I'm,
it's
I'm not
it's it's,
I'm not
it's
there yet.
weird. There's plenty of projects that kill it on Indiegogo that make bank. Keenan White, some of his projects have done 60 that he's been involved in, 60 grand. And I've seen 60 grand projects on Kickstarter too. I've seen projects on Kickstarter do only 1,000 or 2,000. I've seen projects on Indiegogo do 2,500. So my experience, and I'm relatively new, I've only backed about 30 projects in a matter of 2.5 years. So I'm not the expert on this, but I think it's pretty even. I think maybe Kickstarter has slightly higher valuation, but I really think it's not that big of a difference. But again, that's just my observation. That's
Right. Well,
anecdotal because I have no evidence.
I guess the difference is how big your fan base is. Because other than that, or the only other thing that I can see a difference is when they choose you for to be on the main page, because they choose one every month. I think they pick one, a staff pick. They call it a staff pick, and they put it in the front of the page. So they promote it. Basically, it's free promotion all the time. So they make tons of money. But that's just a random. I don't know if it's random, or I don't know who picks it.
It's also your fan base's affiliations as well. It's also big on that, and I mean again, we're getting into controversial territory. So we're going to drop before you and me get into trouble here. But I do want to back out of this project because I know that obviously there's a lot going on with it. I'm not too sure how many days you have left running it.
Oh, we have 23, I think. 22 days. 22 days. Yeah.
So, but obviously, what I'm encouraging everybody is that back your pledges and your rewards early, because it does take a lot of stress off of people, especially when somebody reaches $1,400 and they have 12 days left.
Right.
With projects, it is super 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 helpful in that regard. But obviously, I do want to back out of this, and I do want to briefly talk because I know that you have Doomsday TV, which was funded on Kickstarter, and I got across that goal because I backed that project.
It was
And
successful. Yeah.
So that was 3 issues that were coming out with that one through 3.
And by the way, it's in the printers already. I haven't sent an update, but it's on the printers. So we're just waiting. It's the waiting game.
And so obviously, and I think it's pretty, safe to say this, is that people who backed it on Kickstarter are going to get theirs. And then obviously you're not just printing a run on Kickstarter. You're going to have other copies, whether it's through websites or conventions, or, it's going to be helicoptered to people or pigeon delivery. I don't know. But it's this idea that obviously for those who didn't back it on Kickstarter, you can pick it up somewhere along the line. So where can people, what's the basic premise of it for starters? And then where can people get it if they actually like what it's about?
Doomsday TV? Are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, well, basically is what would you do if you have 7 years to live? Because there is an asteroid coming to Earth. It's going to hit Earth in 7 years. So the main premise is that the main character is a couch potato, and he's never done nothing with his life. And so he decides, even when he knows he's going to die soon, he wants redemption. So he starts filming what's happening in the world when everything becomes chaos. It's basically, I call it basically the Walking Dead, but this time the monsters are the humans. And it's a pretty good book. I mean,
we spoke about it extensively. Yeah. The only reason why I bring it up is that obviously, people on Kickstarter are going to get theirs. I'm looking forward to getting mine. I'm looking forward to reading the first 3 issues.
Yeah.
And, a bunch of stuff involving it. And then even going further, obviously, people will say, hey, I'm looking for something a little bit out there, a little bit outside the box. And where can people get that book when everybody on Kickstarter got theirs? And hopefully everybody on Kickstarter will get it first. Hopefully.
The first thing I'm going to do is, you see that box right there in the back? That's the packaging. So I ordered 250, so we can do the Doomsday TV and this one that we're doing right now, the Sword and the Sorcerer. I have everything ready. I have all the prints, so it's just ready. We're just waiting for the books. And once I get those, I'm gonna send it to everybody. I'm gonna send it to the shops too. We're gonna do a direct distribution to many of the shops. I have Malhai Comics right here. This is the biggest comic book in the U.S. They buy every single book I do, and they buy big boxes. So, but I'm gonna send it to nationwide and probably international too. We're gonna translate that into Spanish, since I speak Spanish mostly. And so yeah, it's gonna be a one of those books that you can find on the racks. And hopefully, if I don't know how the deal is, but I've seen a few books in Walmart, so maybe I can try that too. We'll see.
And then even going beyond this, and hopefully I'm not going to get myself into trouble and ruin anything, but I know you also have another book that's coming out dealing with some pretty girls and some models. And
yeah, I was doing the video for the campaign actually, right before we started this. It's called the sexy pinups of the Instagram. I'm doing basically 12 girls, 12 pinups with girls, some of the most beautiful girls on Instagram. And I'm talking about models, like supermodels, like beautiful girls. And I'm done with the book. We're gonna start the campaign pretty soon, actually, probably this month. And well, just get ready for that.
And so
obviously, I know you like those.
Hey! I'm right now single. I have plenty of attractive female friends who are in various industries. I know plenty of cosplayers. I happen to like the swimsuit editions of a lot of comics. I just picked up a Robotech swimsuit edition. It's like for $12. It's great. That Lin Min May is smoking hot, and talking about the '80s, right? Like,
Yeah,
so having said that, obviously, I enjoy this, and I enjoy a lot of it.
I enjoy it too. That's why I'm doing it.
I like the summertime. Women wear less clothes. How can I complain?
It's gonna be a hot book, so that's the only thing I can tell you right now. I don't want to spoil it, but you will see some like censor bars everywhere.
Is there a pinup with the woman wearing just a sensor bar as her outfit?
Yep. And also
So,
we're going to sell like pictures too, like posters of the models, and that's gonna be hot too, like steamy hot.
so I'm gonna leave that before I get in trouble and I get canceled because clearly this is the way we're gonna do it. I'm sure both my guests tomorrow are not gonna have a problem with it, and Ralph Tedesco from Zenoscope's coming on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so we're going to be talking, and we're going to have a very, very professional conversation. And Shelby Paris is coming on from LFC tomorrow night. So it's just really, really, really fun people hanging out with me tomorrow night. Different, separate interviews, guys. I want to make that crystal clear.
Oh, okay.
Separate interviews.
Okay.
I'm sure Ralph would love if I brought Shelby on. I'm sure.
Same day? You're gonna do 2 interviews?
What?
You're gonna do 2 interviews in the same day?
Oh yeah. I do 2 interviews like almost every Tuesday and Wednesday. It's amazing.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm a machine.
You are a machine.
So the person who's supposed to come on, I'm not going to embarrass her, but she had a family emergency, and we were going to go My Little Pony before you. But anyway, I digress. She had a family emergency, so a bunch of people know who she is, and we're rescheduling because things happen in life, and
all the time.
So having said all that, though, obviously there's a lot of stuff coming out with you. You got a lot of projects in the works.
I'm also working on book number 6 of Project Noah's Ark. It's a science fiction book. It's basically technology versus science, and that's all I can say for now. But the books are 5 of the books are finished, and I'm getting ready to do the campaign. Probably it's going to be for next year, early next year. And but it's something that I've been working for 10 years in my spare time. So
I'm sure we're going to talk about it at some point.
Yeah. So I'll show you.
Having said all that, obviously a lot's going on, as I was stating, and I do want to make sure that people back this Indiegogo. People pick up Doomsday, know where to find it. You got some other stuff out there that we didn't tackle. Obviously, where can people find you on the internet? Twitter, Facebook, website. Sometimes people don't have comic shops around them, where their comic shop might not order it. So we're going to get copies of this stuff. And obviously, the best way how to get the copy of the Sword and Sorcerer is through Indiegogo right now. Is the easiest way to do it. Or when it gets on Kickstarter, if that's your cup of tea, that's the best way how to do it as well. But things like Doomsday TV, obviously. So where can people find all this stuff, and just give them the rundown?
This is breaking news, I guess. I'm partnered it up with Livid Comics. They're gonna sell my books. So they're still gonna have my Gemini Comics logo, but they're gonna take care of the selling. So go to Livid Comics. They're not there yet because we just finished that partnership, and we're gonna put them there. All my comic books are gonna be through lividcomics.com. I think that's it. Yeah, and that's where you can find me. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, under Ozzy Longoria or Gemini Comics. and you can Google my name, and then you can find a bunch of a lot of companies that I work with. They have my work, and obviously there's so many that I just can't mention all of them. But if you Google my name, you can get a list of all the things that I've done, and all my books. Well, they're not my books, but I work with them, and yep, that's that.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on with you, and I've been saying this with everybody here is that you have to support indie. And so one of the ways you support indie is that you have to back Indiegogos and Kickstarters with books that you enjoy, and that's first and foremost. And then even going beyond that, let's say you don't like somebody's, Indiegogo book, for instance, but they have another book. You have to buy it either at a shop or in a website, or if
Right.
they have an eBay store or anything like that, or if you see them at a con. Because look, not every book a creator produces is going to be loved by everybody, but you have a lot of books that you've produced. So somebody might love Doomsday TV and that's their cup of tea, but they're not so big on Sword and the Sorcerer. And well, obviously the way they can support you and support what you're doing and the projects you're doing is back the Kickstarter for that one when it came out, or when the second Kickstarter for issues 4, 5, and 6 comes out in 7. But also picking up those books is very important, and picking up your works that you've done with other things. So you've done a bunch of anthologies and other things, because it does go a long way, and that makes a huge difference. And so obviously that's what you have to do. But again, as I stated, right now I am broke. Money's really tight, and I'm not the only one. And people go in and out. Some months are better. Obviously, people have emergencies. And if you're in that circumstance, the best thing you can do is follow creators on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, check out their Instagram, share the Kickstarters,
It's very
Indiegogo.
important. Even this interview, just if you will help us, me and him, me and him and I, it will help us a lot. So that you share this link.
It goes a very, very long way when you share something, because you don't know who's watching. And this has happened, and I've told this story a lot, where I'm doing an interview with somebody, and like, yo, I shared into a Facebook group live, and legitimately 3 people back somebody's Kickstarter live. And the person's like, oh yeah, I see their name now in my list, because you don't know who's watching. And look, things don't come across my desk that are big projects sometimes. And I'm like, how did I miss this? Well, it's because a lot of stuff's going on, and sometimes I'm not paying attention to everybody. I always say to every indie creator, I say, look, indie creators get bent out of shape on this when I say it. But when I explain to them why I say it, I say, look, I am dealing every 3 months, I am doing approximately 60 to 70 interviews. Every 3 months. That's a lot of content. I don't recognize everybody's Kickstarter. So if you have a Kickstarter going on, remind me. And even if I already backed it, remind me, because chances are that I might have backed it, but I might not have. There's a 50-50 chance. Or if you want to be on my show, I'm not looking at your Kickstarter every day. Ask me. And it goes a long way, because you don't know that somebody who might know who Ozzy is doesn't even know that this is going on right now. And it makes a huge difference. And it's very, very important to understand that somebody might be like, yo, I love Ozzy's work. He has an Indiegogo on. How did this not come across my desk? It happens all the time. Yeah. So obviously, it is important to share it, because you never know.
Sometimes the algorithm just blocks it, because that's what's happening with me right now. That the Facebook algorithm, it's just not sharing it. I posted it, and it's like, well, I haven't seen it. What? I post it every day, like in places where you are. My friends, they don't know it. So if someone else has shared it, maybe it's a different thing. I mean, it is always a different thing, yeah.
And it's very complicated. And also, even just saying, hey, I just saw this great project, and if I know somebody who's into this, I'll just shoot them a DM, or I'll even just tell them about it. It goes a long way. So obviously, I can't emphasize that enough. And on that note, I do want to give you the final word.
All right. Well, guys, in indie colleagues, please back my project. It's a really good project that we have. We've been doing it for a while, and there's gonna be 6 books. They're gonna probably gonna be in both platforms, Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And it's very affordable. That's the whole thing. That we want to do something that everybody can get. Is I cannot stress it enough. It's really affordable, and it's something that it has so much quality too. So why we're doing that? Because we want everybody to have one in their hands. There's so many rewards or perks, how they call them in different T-shirts, original art, blank covers, um, posters or prints. And the main attraction is basically the cover of Mr. Simon Beasley. And he's actually having 2 covers. One is a sketch cover, and the other one is painted cover. And I'm also doing a regular cover. The other 2 are variants. So support us, and thank you. Thank you.
And on that note, I couldn't have said it any better myself, so I believe that is a wrap.